One of the things that has helped me the most, I mean like the absolute most on my Manjaro journey, has been my homemade chicken soup. Now, it's not just I made it for when I started on Manjaro. I have been making this chicken soup for years, and it's a great, for me it's low carb. You can make it high carb if you want, but it's a great low carb recipe. It was something that I was doing when I was on carnivore or keto. It was just something that I like to have in the winter time, just to, you know, give me all those nutrients. You know, I think it's like, people joke about it being sort of like Jewish penicillin, you know, chicken soup for the soul, all of that kind of thing. So I've been making this for years, and it used to be like when you had a roast and you'd have the bones left over, you could make the soup from there. I specifically go out and buy a chicken just to make this soup. I'll either roast it and have some chicken off it and then use the bones for the soup, or I'll actually just stick the whole thing in the crock pot and let it go for hours and hours and hours. Now today, what I've done is I have made a roast chicken because I am going to have some for lunch. I'm about 3 days, as I'm filming this, I'm about 3 days shy of my 1 year Manjaro anniversary. So I'm trying to eat relatively healthily, especially for these last few days, because I have a goal of 6 stone to get to by Wednesday. So not 6 stone in total to lose by Wednesday. In total, I want to have lost 6 stone by Wednesday. And I'm less than half a pound away from that. So it's very, very realistic that I'll hit that goal. But yeah, so I've made roast chicken for lunch today, and I'm going to show you what I do to then make my soup. Okay, so here we go, and I'll show you what we've got here. So you've got the trio of any good stock. You've got onion, carrot and celery. Now I like to put lots of carrots and celery in because it's something that I like. You can use whatever vegetables that you like in addition to these, but these are what you put in just to make a good stock. I got 2 additional bouillon cubes. I think they're just Knorr or Lidl chicken stock cubes that I use just to flavour it. Obviously, I've got my roast chicken. My roast chicken is upside down. I know that sounds weird, but if you roast a chicken upside down, all of the juices go into the breast, which is underneath, and it makes it extra moist. Now, what you can do is flip it over 20 minutes before the end, and you'll brown off the breast. But basically, because I'm on my own, I don't really care. It does look, I'll show you. Oh no, it's stuck. It does look a bit flat. So it's not ideal if you're going to bring a bird out to the table and carve it. It doesn't look as good. But yeah, if you roast your chicken upside down, as a tip, it is absolutely the most moist chicken you'll ever eat. And then I've got a bag of bones. So the bones I tend to collect whenever I'm eating chicken. I keep a bag in the freezer, and then as I'm done, I just throw them in so that when I am making stock like this, obviously I can just throw them in. And then I have my ancient crock pot, which is really stained and dirty on the outside, but the inside is very clean, I promise you. So that's what we're going to do. And then I've boiled the kettle so that I can make a bouillon to put in there with it. Okay. And then obviously you want to cut up your vegetables. Like I said, these are the trio that you need for any good stock. Once you've cooked your stock, you can add any of your own favourites in. Peas, cauliflower, broccoli, etc. But these are what you're going to add just to make your stock base. And that's going to give you all of the flavour. So these go into the stock pot. So I've already got the bones from the previous chicken in there, not the one I cooked today. So all these go in. I'm going to struggle to get everything in this pot actually, because I do have the bones of a full chicken in there already, but we'll see what we can do. And then, like I said, I'm going to add 2 chicken stock cubes. I just like to cut these up a little bit, just so that they kind of like distribute more evenly and melt a bit quicker. There you go. I'm pretty safe with a knife if you're worried. I trained as a chef many, many years ago, so I'm pretty confident with a knife. Anyway, there you go. And then, like I said, I've boiled my water, so I'm going to pour that on. Lid on. And then the next thing I have to do is strip down this chicken. So wings come off. My hands are clean, and it's only for me anyway. So even if they weren't clean, it doesn't matter. Okay, so there's the wings off. And then the thighs come off. These little bits underneath, these are the chef's treat. These little nuggets here, oh my God, they're absolutely delicious. I'm going to eat one right now. So yeah. So I'm just going to strip down the rest of this chicken. Like I said, if you were doing this as a roast for, you know, visitors or guests or whatever, then you'd already have cut it off. But because this is just for me, obviously I'm just going to do it. I'm going to take it off so that I'm not overcooking the chicken, because we're going to cook the bones and the carrots and everything for a couple of hours. So, and then if you can see how juicy and tender this chicken is, that's because it was done upside down. So there you go. Little tip from Ginger for you. Okay, so that's the chicken stripped. So we've got all of this meat that I'm going to chop up and then put back in later. Okay, so you'll join me later when the stock is all cooked. Okay, so there we go. Everything is in. Crock pot is on high at the moment. I will turn it down once it starts really bubbling away. And at some point you'll probably need to take out some of the liquid in here, because it will generate steam and liquid, etc. I'm going to let that go probably for 6 hours, maybe. It depends. Sometimes I've left it all day if I've gone to work. So, and then I'll pull out the veggies and let it go for maybe a bit longer. But we'll see. I'll come back later. Okay, I forgot to show the midway section. So what I've done is I've removed all of the veg, and I've put back in the bones and the skin and everything just to cook for another like couple of hours, like an hour or two. This has been on now, I'd say, for about 3 or 4 hours. I'll leave it on for about another hour, maybe hour and a half, and then I'll drain it. So keep the bones and everything separate. Let the stock go cold, let the bones go cold. I'll pick any remaining meat off the bones, and then I will switch all of it, and then I will put all of it back together into bowls with the vegetables. So there, as you can see, that's the veg that I've pulled out. So the carrot, celery and onions, and then obviously you can see a few bits of chicken in there as well. That kind of fell off the bone. But yeah, come tomorrow, I'll put it all together so that it goes into usually about 6 to 7 portions. It depends on how much fluid I have or how much liquid I have in chicken. What I tend to try and do is weigh the chicken and then see how much I've got, and then divide it so that I get between sort of 35 and 40 grams of protein per bowl. That's how I calculate it. So So yeah, we'll see what we end up with tomorrow. Okay, so in classic rookie style, I forgot to film the rest of the transfer of the soup and the vegetables into the pots. So I've got 5 pots here, and I've got 1 in a saucepan because I'm going to have that for dinner tonight. So all I did was I cooked out the bones for another couple of hours, and then I drained them. I let it cool down overnight. It solidified into like a jelly, basically, because there's so much gelatin in the bones and the ends of the bones and things like that. So yeah, it was like a jelly this morning, and I just warmed it up ever so slightly just to make it unjelly-like. And then I separated the vegetables into like equal portions. I just generally throw like 2 or 3 pieces of carrot in, 2 or 3 celery and that kind of thing until it's all divided. And then obviously I've got the chicken over here, which I've done into breast meat and thigh and leg meat. The reason I separate them is just for ease, so that when I'm working out my macros, I get it exact. So what I've got here is white meat and then the dark meat, so the leg and thigh and the breast. I've got 300 grams of each, which works out really nicely because I've got 6 pots. So that's going to be 50 grams of each into each pot, and that'll make 100 grams of chicken. And I will put the macro of what 100 grams of chicken is in protein. Okay, so this is now set to 0. So I'm just going to add in like 50 grams of each. So I get even. My daughter said I'm obsessed with getting evens on everything. So maybe I am, maybe I'm not. So yeah, that's what it looks like. That's 100 grams. And then, like I said, I just transfer that into the bowl, and then I reset to 0 each time. So 50 and 50. It's a little bit over. There we go. Okay, and that's it. We're all done. So there's 100 grams, like I said, of chicken in each one of these. So 50 grams of dark meat, 50 grams of white meat. This is all nice and cold now, so I'm able to put the lids on. And then what I do is I literally pop these in the freezer. And as I'm ready for them, I'll just pull one out in the mornings. And like I said, if I've got leftover vegetables or leftover chicken or whatever, I will throw it in there. But that makes a nice size bowl that is really good for me. It's all full of nutrients. Oh, and if you want to know why it looks a little bit creamy, what I tend to do is once I have separated it all out, there's always a little bit of meat left on the bones and things like that. And sometimes, you know, the gristly bits that you get on the end, well, they've essentially turned to jelly because obviously they've been cooked out for so long. And so they're all full of collagen and elastin and something else probably. And I just basically pull the ends of those off, pull the little bits of chicken meat off, and then I blend it. So I blend in some chicken meat and, like I said, the gelatinous bits at the end. And that makes the soup just a little bit creamy, gives it a little bit more texture without adding any extra calories or ingredients or things like that. And then I just heat it up, and I usually put a big dollop of chilli in. I'm not really supposed to have chilli with my Barretts, but I do like a bit of chilli in my soup. And away we go. So that is Ginger's homemade chicken soup.